All right, so today we have a quiz for everybody to do. Before we get started, I just want to remind you that you guys have already had 2 assignments that are due, and just to make sure that you guys get those handed in before you even begin to attempt this. Okay, so please make sure you've watched the video on shutter speed and on aperture. Currently, I have 16 out of 74 students, so both of my classes, and 4 out of 74 for shutter speed. So those were due. Aperture was due last Tuesday and shutter speed was due today. So please make sure that you get those done. If you are done and you feel that you have a good grasp, you are doing quizzes this week, okay? You're doing 2 quizzes. One is written, one is multiple choice. You're going to do the manual exposure written, okay? So manual exposure has no MC beside it. Manual exposure written, and you have your manual exposure with multiple choice, okay? Here the question is, explain ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. How do these elements of the exposure triangle work together to create the desired exposure? For example, explain how a change to one element affects the other two. So what I want you to do, and I'll know you watch this video if you do this properly, explain ISO's definition, so about 2 sentences, explain aperture's definition, about 2 sentences, and explain shutter speed's definition, 2 sentences. And then I want you to explain all 3 of them together. If you change one element of ISO, let's say, what do you need to do to the aperture? For instance, if your aperture or your shutter speed, your ISO is at 100, you are not having an incredibly sensitive sensor to light, obviously, because you would most likely be outside. But say you're inside with an ISO of 100, then you need to either open up your aperture or slow down your shutter speed so that your camera sensor is still becoming more sensitive to light. Okay, what I would suggest is kind of create a scene. Be like, you're outside shooting your dog, okay? What should you change all of your settings to create the perfect manual exposure? Okay, so that's your first one. Once again, 3 definitions, and then your final, putting them all 3 together. And then you are going to save and hand that in. Do not copy directly from Wikipedia. I know some of you may use outside resources. I cannot stop you, but please try and do it the best on your own. It's very apparent to me that someone might have cheated, especially knowing where you guys were at before we left. Okay, so please do your best to try and figure it out on your own and speak from yourself. Like, don't try and pretend to be this fantastic. Well, you might be at that point, so I shouldn't say pretend, but try not to copy someone else's work online, okay? It's very easy for me to look it up myself, okay? Second one, you're going to go to manual exposure with multiple choice. And you have a few multiple choice questions here that you're going to answer, okay? That's about it for this week, and then you're going to have to make sure that you get everything else handed in. Please, if you have any questions, shout out to me on my email or reach out to me on my email, abrubin@cbe.ab.ca. That's it for this week. I hope you guys have a fantastic day and enjoy the nice weather.